all, divination is not telling the future, but seeing or discerning the signs of the future in material or, shall we say, visual events. So you could do divination through anything, not just through your dreams. I mean, you could actually, Artemidorus himself refers to a whole series of diviners, including egg diviners and bowl diviners, looking into a bowl of water, even cheese diviners, which I'd love to actually pick his brain about. But what Artemidorus focused on was dreams, and he was arguing against mostly Stoics, probably, that dreams really were signs of the future. Not all dreams, okay, but some of them. And his tactic was to just give a very practical manual about symbolic reading in dreams. And so basically you can think of it as he views the events that you see in prophetic dreams as symbols of other things. So just to give you a random example, he says, to cast stones at someone signifies speaking badly about them. And to have someone throw stones at you means someone is going to speak bad about you. So in other words, it's a kind of one-for-one symbolism, but the complexity of it is, Artemidorus says that, you also have to view the single symbol in light of all the other symbols in the dream. And you've got to be aware of, the multivalent meaning of symbols. And when symbols interact with symbols, they can mean different things. So there's a great complexity to it, but it is essentially just a dream manual. It's very different than anything I think you would find in Freud or Jung. And I think in some respect, the major difference is theological, because Artemidorus really does think that it's the gods who, or the demones, the subordinate deities, who are sending the dreams. And they do so for different purpose. And all sorts of people believe this in antiquity, including Jews and Christians. And Jews and Christians widely complain about certain people, including magi, who can manipulate demones, or demons if you prefer, into sending people dreams, which they then interpret using the same techniques that Artemidorus gives. But since they're sent by someone trying to deceive them, then the interpretation, even though it's right, blows up in their face. So there's lots of hazards here.
But you were talking about, the Christian reaction. I'm thinking of somebody like Tertullian. I was preparing for this interview. I was reading some text by on Artemidorus, and actually another book kind of related to this. Edward Watts. He has a book called Dr. Edward Watts. He's a Roman historian, Byzantine historian. He has a book called The Final Pagan Generation. I thought this was really interesting. He stressed that that kind of period of time, I mean, it's a little bit after Artemidorus, but that kind of period of time, we lose sight nowadays of how immersed in the divine people were from birth to the grave. Like, it's literally everywhere, right? Household ritual, festivals, 175 days probably out of the year. You have diviners. Everybody's on a corner selling something. Like Dr. Sledge and I had a discussion about this in terms of Hermeticism and its relationship to the huge religious milieu. Also further, Peter Thoneman, the one who wrote the book on Artemidorus, he mentions how professional dream interpreters, the on Hierapolis, they were a fixture of Greco-Roman society from the highest to the lowest levels. And that's kind of what I like about him. It reflects all the different strata of society. I think Artemidorus for me is just kind of interesting because he, we have something like somebody like Macrobius, right? He has his commentary on the Dream of Scipio. Then we have a text attributed to Daniel in Latin throughout the Middle Ages. That was really important. But Artemidorus is Oniero Critica, probably butchering that. A wonderful example of dream divination manual in antiquity, mostly because it seems to better reflect the worries and attitudes of merchants, craftsmen, slaves, everyday people, as opposed to like the higher strata. Can you think of any other examples similar to this?
Well, I mean, again, Jews and Christians. If you think of Daniel in the Babylonian court, Daniel is represented as a high-class Jew, but he's really just he's a professional dream interpreter. He's a magus, basically, who interprets the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar as sent by Yahweh specifically. And then Juvenal, sort of on your speaking of lower class people, says that, yeah, you walk on the streets of Rome and people are going to call out to you and say, hey, you got a dream, I'll interpret it. And he mentions specifically, an old Jewish woman who would do this for you. And
I love that passage, by the way. It's a great passage.
So, yeah, and so this is something that's happening in antiquity, and it hasn't yet stopped, really. I mean, I don't think moderns have fully ceased believing that dreams have significance, and even theological significance. I mean, in modern Persia and in other places, you still have people who speak of their dreams as very significant for events. Like it's God's tap on the shoulder for you to wake up to something or be prepared for something, which isn't mutually exclusive from the more psychological or cognitive science perspective, from just saying that it's your brain trying to organize the information that you receive during the day and then anticipate new situations. I mean, that's not actually an anti-theological explanation. I mean, it's because this idea of anticipating the future and doing better the next day is exactly how the ancients thought of what the gods were doing. Were trying to tell you. They wanted you to do better, or whether you were making a business venture or whether you were planning to marry someone, they would send dreams at significant points of your life to help you make the right decisions. The good gods, that is. Of course, there were nasty ones.